My dad, Roger's life was as unique as the man himself. He was the firstborn son of Tommy and Dot Leblanc in Moncton, New Brunswick in 1943. Across the street lived his grandparents, Emma and Albany, along with their daughter and his aunt, May Leblanc. They both cherished Roger and raised him with the values that he took into manhood. My dad adored Emma and May as he did his own mother. May came to visit him in his final hours and spoke to him as sweetly as an angel. Heavily sedated, Dad opened his eyes and looked at her to acknowledge her presence. May welcomed him into the world lovingly, cared for him, and helped guide him out of this world. Dad's family was very poor, and he learned at a very young age that in order to survive, the key to that was hard work. Hard work and family were two virtues instilled in him by his own family. I never knew a man that worked as hard as he did, and yet still made time for his loved ones. The accolades he attained over the years were unmatched. He was Salesman of the Year no matter what job he had, and he was coveted by employers and feared by competitors. It was during the days of Coastal that for 5 years we worked side by side, day in and out, and I learned everything from him. Dad taught me how to sell. He also taught me to be honest and fair and work hard. We had no chance of success without him, and we owe him all the credit for what we do and what we've become today. And so too do hundreds of employees that followed. His other love of his life was his only daughter, Pam. Just the mere mention of her name would melt him. He eagerly awaited her return trips from Ontario, where they would stay up all night together, sharing moments that only daughters and fathers can. Watching Pam give the news that her adoption went through at the cottage last summer will forever be remembered. He cried and he held her so tight, thrilled that her long-awaited adoption would yield him a new grandson to spoil. Dad lived his life like it was his last every day. People all said that it must have been nice to be able to say how much he meant to us during his final days. But in truth, that was done long before Dad was sick. He was so in touch with his emotions that we all shared love as rich and as pure as one special moment in time all the time. As his kids, he spoke to us daily, and he showed up in our lives to help with even the most mundane of tasks, just as an excuse to be together. Throughout this, Dad was unconditionally supported by the love of his wife, Betty. Everyone that knows them knows that they have the kind of love that is more than rare. It exists only in a handful of couples. If there were 2 empty chairs, Dad insisted they occupy one. Dad, on an hourly basis, told Mom how beautiful she was. They were inseparable and always showing up as a twosome. Always laughing together, their beloved cottage in PEI was the dewdrop inn for all walks of life. Many laughs were heard on the banks of Cape Traverse, PEI over the past 25 years. Their affection for each other impacted countless lives as a beacon for what to demand from life and from others, and to settle for nothing less. I've heard this many times from many different people. His grandkids, who affectionately called him Gaga, turned him into Dad all over again, but this time without any discipline. We learned in the final days from our 5-year-old daughter Rowan that Gaga used to give her 2 bowls of ice cream, and when I confronted Dad about this in the hospital bed, it drew that famous evil grin of acknowledgement. He was omnipresent in our kids' lives. He showed up to hockey and basketball games, he would build forts, he would stay up late, and even had a standing date with Liza every Sunday, eating popcorn and watching The Walking Dead together, just the 2 of them. His only regret was not getting a chance to know his new grandson, Caden, but felt somewhat reassured that the rest of the family will represent his love and smother him with the affection that he wanted for himself. Every year, the highlight of my life was our trips to Florida. These trips became famous in social media for the pranks that we'd play on each other. For 3 to 4 weeks annually, we'd rent a big house in Florida and we'd spend every waking hour together. Dad was up for anything, anytime. During the days, we'd grow gills playing in the pool with the girls. He was always astonished that us kids wanted them to come on our trips with us. From cruises with Pam to trips to Mexico with Rob and his kids, they were our partners in crime, and it was our pleasure having them more than it was theirs. My dad knew God. He had been a part of Hillside since its inception and had not been a wallflower. He was a staunch supporter of every generation of pastor at Hillside and had a brothership with many of the men in the congregation. In his final days, Dad said to me time and again that he would fight to not leave, but if it is indeed his time, he knew exactly where he was going, and he was not afraid. He fought cancer like he fought everything else in life, with maximum intensity. He was fearless through this process, and he was so strong for us. He was still teaching us lessons in his final days, facing death with dignity, strength, and no regrets. I recall going for a walk with him a few weeks ago, and he said to me, "Paul, if it's my time to go, I have lived a great life. I've loved my kids with everything I've had. I was always present in my grandkids' lives. I love my family and my friends. I loved your mom more than anything else on earth, and if I leave with no regrets." Dad, you've left a hole the size of a crater in our lives. We're not sure how we'll put one foot in front of another without your love and guidance, but this much I do know. You've spent a lifetime instilling values in us that will in turn pay forward in our lives and the lives around us. You've created a movement in generations to come that's so widespread that you more than accomplish what God put you on this earth for. We love you more than any person possibly can be loved, and you'll be sorely missed. Slowly and surely, as a family, we'll find the courage and the strength to laugh again and continue your work in our lives. Carry it forward with your strength to overcome our weaknesses. I love you, and I miss you, Dad.